How's it going, everybody? Come on in. Want to see if we can work on getting the Instagram to go live. Here we go. So I'm just going to bring in Instagram and then we're going to get it going. So this Saturday, if you're in the combat sports world, you already know that there's a main event in California, Anaheim, for the featherweight championship of the world. It's going to be Volkanovski from New Zealand, training an Australian, fighting. Actually, that might be the other way around. I'm not sure. I think he's Australian, training in New Zealand. It's going to be fighting one of my favorite fighters of all time, Ilia Topuria, who I've had the pleasure with working for and with on the immigration side for almost maybe 4 years now, since he's been in the UFC. Actually went to his UFC debut in London a few years back. But I want to kind of just use this opportunity to talk about problem solving when it comes to doing immigration in the entertainment space. Because a lot of times you're asked to do things quickly. And yeah, let's just say you're asked to do things quickly, and it's really all about results, and the stakes are high. Take it, if you were going to have the biggest fight of your life, you definitely want to have your family members there by your side to enjoy it with you. So the way that it works with the Ultimate Fighting Championships is that they'll get the visas for the fighter and for their cornermen that they specify, and usually those cornermen will get B1 visas. They don't get work visas to come. In Ilia Topuria's case, he actually has a visa that's placed with his management company, which is First Round Management out of Miami, Florida, and all around the world. And they're probably the biggest managers of mixed martial artists in the world. So they understand the nuances and the significance of being able to obtain your own visa as opposed to wait for others to get it. So he's on his own P1 visa that is tied to his agent, as opposed to the traditional way when your visa is tied to your promoter. And one thing that can happen when your visa is tied to promoter is you can get pressure put onto you to maybe compete sometimes when you don't want to, because you're worried about whether your visa will get renewed and things like that. I'll probably cover it in another video to talk about a lot of the issues that are facing independent fighters from getting their own visas and other sports too. We just had some unfortunate news for an NFL player that had a visa that was connected to his agency, where USCIS is giving a lot of pushback. It just seems that there's a lot of pressure from the larger organizations to prevent individuals from getting visas pretty much for themselves to do as they wish. But we'll keep fighting the fight there. But this particular situation was Ilia had the fight coming up, and it was probably, the fight's in February, and we probably got the notification to go ahead and try to bring his family members, and there's 8 of them in to the fight. So the first thing you look at is the timing issue. The obvious thing you would look to see is if the country that the people are in are eligible for ESTA visa waivers. He is from Georgia, so his people are from Georgia, and unfortunately, that's not one of the countries that enjoy the benefits of the ESTA visa waiver program. If you do not know, if you're in certain countries such as England, you can come into the United States on a waiver of having a visa. I mean, you can just kind of apply for ESTA. It comes usually back in about an hour or two. Go to the airport and fly in, and it's usually good for 60 to 90 days. But if you're not in one of those countries, then you have to get a visa. The second thing we look to see is the visitor visa. What are the current wait times on obtaining an interview to get a visitor visa? And are any of the individuals eligible for the waiver of an interview? If you can waive your interview, then you don't have to actually go and schedule an appointment. It's just a case that you'll send your passport to the consulate along with supporting documents, and they'll send your passport back to you. Unfortunately, none of that applied in this circumstance. So we had to do two things. And this is like the full service type of thing we'll do in this situation, especially when it's such as high stakes as a world championship with the greatest organization in the sport. What we do first is we set visitor appointments for everybody individually. Next, what we do is we try to expedite those visitor appointments. In this case, when we set these appointments, they were probably 6 to 9 months out from when he needed them to be. So as a backup, what we do is we file for P1S essential support staff visas. And when you're fighting for a world championship, it's not just about the competition. There's a lot of momentum that has to be harnessed in order to maximize the opportunity monetarily, whether that be from sponsorship perspective, community development perspective, or just even a branding perspective. There's a lot of hands and minds that come together to make a full team on the competition and on the business side come to fruition. So we look at the background and the traditional support that everybody in the family have given to Ilia on his journey here. And we use that to craft a single petition that has every person on there, their job titles, their roles, and what they'll be doing to support him in his championship fight on the P1S visa, which is a work visa. And the other reason we do that is because the P work visas will have earlier appointment dates than the visitor visa. So in this case, in Jordan, in Georgia, the visitor visa appointment dates were 6 to 9 months out, but the P visa appointments were only about a week. Now, the problem is once you send these visas in, you have to wait for them to be processed. So you use premium processing, and we stuffed everything we could in the petition to try to avoid a request for evidence. But the way that things work now on the employment-based immigration side of USCIS is that you can expect a lot of RFEs, especially when there's a lot of beneficiaries, because we can put all those people onto a single immigration petition. And so unfortunately, we got an RFE there, which kind of messed up the timing there. But fortunately, we were able to get emergency visitor visa appointments booked for every single beneficiary. And I definitely want to send a thank you to the UFC, who was very responsive to the staff and gave us the little bit of information we needed to push this over the hump. And thank you to the consulate in Georgia that was very accommodating in getting these emergency appointments, one, booked, and then approving them right away. So we're glad to support Ilia Topuria in his world championship exploits, and we expect him to win because he's a hell of a fighter, and he's a hell of a guy. And so we're glad to be on his team, and good luck and congrats to all of his family members that are now on their way to the United States. If you have any questions, you know where to find us. We're not hard to find. So thank you for tuning in and look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you very much.